Hi, my name is Rachel Oliver, and I'm a senior history major at Georgia Southern. My presentation is a current work in progress titled Emmett Till's Murder Trial, an Epitome of Jim Crow. It is my most up-to-date working prospectus for my senior thesis. As with any research, it is important to give some historical context. Emmett Till was a bright and cheerful 14-year-old boy visiting family in Money, Mississippi in 1955. Native to Chicago, Till was unfamiliar with the racist infrastructure that Jim Crow laws in the South possessed. Though he attended a segregated school in the south side of Chicago, it was nothing like what he was to endure in Mississippi. His mother, Mammy, had warned him to be cautious given his race, but Emmett was a true kid at heart and enjoyed joking around and playing pranks. One day, while out with his friends down south, Emmett's companions asked him to go into a nearby convenience store and ask the white woman behind the counter on a date as a dare. This dare would lead to his untimely death on August 28, 1955, just 4 days later. His assailants, the white woman's husband and her brother, made Emmett carry a 75-pound cotton gin fan to the bank of the Tallahatchie River and ordered him to take off his clothes. The two men then beat him nearly to death, gouged out his eye, shot him in the head, and then threw his body, while tied to the cotton gin fan with barbed wire, into the river. The assailants, Malam and Bryant, were sent into court in September of 1955 but found not guilty. The two actually later admitted to the killing in an interview with Look magazine in 1956, but could not be tried again for the crime due to double jeopardy. Now, what was Jim Crow? Jim Crow was the name of a racist class system which operated primarily but not exclusively in the southern and border states of the U.S. between 1877 and the mid-60s. Jim Crow was more than a series of rigid anti-Black laws, it was a way of life. Under Jim Crow, African Americans were relegated to the status of second-class citizens. Jim Crow represented the legitimization of anti-Black racism. Many Christian ministers and theologians taught that the whites were the chosen people, Blacks were cursed to be servants, and God supported racial segregation. Craniologists, eugenicists, phrenologists, and social Darwinists at every educational level pushed the belief that Blacks were innately intellectually and culturally inferior to whites. Pro-segregation politicians gave eloquent speeches on the great danger of integration, also referred to as the mongrelization of the white race. Newspaper and magazine writers routinely referred to Blacks as stereotypical racist names, and their articles reinforced anti-Black stereotypes. All major societal institutions at the time reflected and supported the oppression of Blacks. To the right is the character that the laws are named after, a white man in blackface. In the 1830s, a man named Thomas Daddy Rice saw a Black man doing simple minstrel tasks and decided to make a caricature of him. And the laws lasted from 1877 to the mid-1960s. So my sources include Jet Magazine, Look Magazine, FBI transcripts, Eisenhower Library, online records on presidential.org, JSTOR, Eyes on the Prize footage series, the Library of Congress, Ebony Magazine, and the New York Public Library. These sources will help as a majority of them are primary sources and many of them include photographs such as the ones on the right. The one on the bottom right is actually Emmett Till in the autopsy room, and on the table is her son Emmett. She decided to give Emmett an open casket funeral because she wanted the world to see what whites in the South had done to her son. Eyes on the Prize footage series is also a very informative series that includes protests surrounding Emmett's death. So for my thesis, it will concern the political nature of the murder trial. Jim Crow laws were a racist infrastructure that dehumanized Black people. In not persecuting Emmett's killers, the state of Mississippi brought worldwide attention to the notion that African Americans in the U.S. were treated as inferior to white people. For the possible angles of the paper, I mentioned that Emmett Till's murder trial embodies Jim Crow. There are several different directions I have thought of to take in researching this. The first one is, what are the common themes that appear in the trial? What were the roles of the judges and the lawyers? In what ways was it obvious that whites were favored over Blacks? The second possible angle is that Emmett was treated and punished like that of an adult man. Did Jim Crow force young Black children to grow up too fast and rob them of their childhood? The defendants were also found not guilty of murdering Emmett as a possible third angle. Did they get acquitted due to justice or the narrative of racism in the South? And that includes my presentation. Again, it is a work in progress, and I take any constructive criticism. Thank you so much for listening.